All right, you can hear me now, but give me just a moment. All right, let's see if I can get that in there. Let's go fade back. I'm back. Okay, sorry guys. What happened was my co-host is out sick, and I was switching over to a new single pane mode. So thank you guys for joining me. I appreciate you guys letting me know sooner rather than later that you couldn't hear me. You should have audio now, so if you can hear me, if you guys can smash the thumbs up or the claps, let me know that you're here. I will also pop up your name here in the top so I can see who's on this live stream and respond to you guys. So thank you guys for being here. This is show 14 of the Cutting into Cybersecurity live stream, or our CISSP study group. And I am super excited to have you guys all here. I see Sean, I see Salome, I see Aaron, I see Theodore Gransberry. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Anton. Who else is on today? Perfect. There's Aaron. I'm also seeing Regis. Regis, buddy. Good to see you. I hope all is well on your end. But thank you guys for joining us. So we're on. My co-host this week, Brandon Krieger, is out sick today, so you get to deal with just me for cryptography. Now, my name is Joel Bork. If you are new here, my day job is as an IronNet threat hunter, so I work with clients, SOCs, analysts, and CISOs, and we work on enterprise network defense. So that's what I do in my day job. Obviously, this live stream, we are bringing the CISSP content to you in a much better format than a massive book full of text. So we've done the research. We've got some questions coming right up. But first, it's weird having to do the recap for this as Brandon normally does it. Let's quickly recap what we did last week. So last week we talked about handling sensitive information assets. This included data in transit, data at rest, and the destruction of physical and digital assets. So this ranged from like degaussing or degaussing, however you pronounce it, to overwriting the data 3 to 7 times on magnetic hard disks. Now, one quick fact is federal governments keep assets rated as top secret until they're destroyed. So that is potentially an exam question according to that book back there. Awesome. It is question time, Salome. So Salome asked us a while back to bring questions to you guys. So let's go ahead and jump in. And as soon as you read the question, I want you guys to type in the chat as quickly as possible. A for 1, B, C, D. Now, there's no letters next to the answers here, but just pick one, A, B, C, D, throw it in there, and let's see who can get these questions right. So here we go. Real quick. That's not working. Oh man, I had 5 questions all done up for you. Let's see if I can get them working. Well, this is what happens when I have to prepare all on my own. So I'm sorry, guys. I thought I had the 5 questions. I set them up for you guys and everything, and they are no longer showing up. So I apologize. Question and answer time, I'm going to have to postpone that till next time, where I'm going to quiz you guys on the content you learned today. So please bear with me, as I typically have an extra set of hands to help prep for this. But darn, I really thought I had those questions ready for you. So Salome, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I promise to do better next chapter. So let's go ahead and jump right in. This chapter is about cryptography. And what cryptography does is it's providing confidentiality, integrity, and authentication, along with non-repudiation for sensitive information while it's stored at rest, in transit, and at use. Now, I feel like if we don't get the CIA triad right in this exam, we're in trouble, right? If we can't remember confidentiality, integrity, and authentication, or availability, wow, I'm even getting it wrong. If we can't get that right and be able to relate different pieces of the CISSP content to it, we're going to be in trouble. So when it comes to cryptography, this is a really important in securing technology that's embedded in many of the controls used to protect information from unauthorized visibility and use, right? So this is the encryption of data so that, oh, Salome, yep, she said no problem on the questions. I promise I'll bring them back. I had some really good ones. Yeah, I'm just not sure why that's not loading. Anyways, hopefully my other pictures load. I got a bunch of them for today, because I believe that while I could talk at you for a whole hour about cryptography, you have to be able to put a mental picture to it. So I've really done due diligence for today's episode to get you guys pictures so you can have that mental image and just not a picture of my face when you go to take that CISSP. So first and foremost, we got to talk about history though. Let's talk about a little bit of history. I believe from what I've heard from the people who have taken the CISSP exam is there are some history questions or older content that relates to history in regards to cryptography on the exam. So cryptographers have spent a lot of time developing strong encryption algorithms. Now, hackers and governments alike have devoted a lot of resources to undermining them, right? You got to think, governments have tried to break just as many cipher suites as probably individual hackers for purposes of war, for spying on other countries and organizations. And it's kind of created an arms race for cryptography. And it's led us to the sophisticated algorithms that we use today. Now, when we're talking about historical milestones, one of the main cipher suites that they talk about when it comes, from history is the Caesarian cipher. Now, this is also known as ROT3 because what they do is they take the letter A and they move it over 3 letters. And I have a quick example so you can see exactly what this looks like. All right, you should still be able to hear me, but this is exactly what it does. So the Caesarian cipher is going to take an A and it's going to turn it into a D. B is going to be an E, C is going to be an F, and you can basically write a message using this cipher, and the person on the other side, as long as they know the cipher, they can decipher it, right? It's extremely simple. Now, to encrypt this message, right, you're just shifting it 3 to the right, which is where ROT3 comes from. It stands for ROT13. Did I just say ROT13? I mean ROT3. Now, if you say ROT13, that means you're going to shift each letter 13 to the right. So you can have a ROT10, ROT5, it doesn't matter. But what it stands for is rotate 5, rotate 10, rotate 15. And you should see it. They have big rotating wheels to help you decipher it depending on how many characters you're going to rotate the alphabet. Awesome. So it doesn't look like we have any questions on that, which is awesome. I'm going to give you guys a quick, let me see if I got a round of applause here. Okay, everybody's got Caesarian cipher down. I shouldn't have to go back through that. It's pretty self-explanatory. As long as you can remember that ROT stands for rotate and is directly related to the Caesarian cipher, you're going to be just fine. Now, the type of attack it's vulnerable to is known as frequency analysis. So when learning about frequency analysis, this is in cryptanalysis, what you learn is you want to look for the most common letters in the English language. And these are going to be E, T, right, A, E, I, O, U, but along with T, N, R, S, and I think H, right? So those are the most common. And what you want to do is you want to, I heard no audio here. Try refreshing real quick. Or unmuting on the video. Right, so there's a little, Theodore, if you refresh, sometimes the little speaker button in LinkedIn will mute it. So try clicking that and that may work. Oh no, you had music, no voice. Can you guys hear me now? There it is. Okay, I'm sorry about that. I don't know where the issue's coming from, but I apologize, Theodore. I'll make sure to test this a little better. Brandon told me at 6:15 that he had a headache, so and would be unable to join us. So I was kind of struggling to put this together really quickly. Phil Hillhouse is on. Hey, buddy, how are you? It's good to see you. Thanks for joining us. I am running through the CISSP documentation. Phil Hillhouse is a colleague of mine, so if you haven't connected with Phil, send him a LinkedIn invite. He's a fantastic gentleman to connect with. So back to frequency analysis. Basically, what you're looking for is you're looking for certain characters that repeat themselves multiple times in a word. From there, you can analyze a word and figure out which letter those should be. And then from there, you can start decrypting that specific cipher. Now, let's move on from the times of Caesar. Let's talk about American history a little bit. I love American history, huge history buff here. But when we're talking about American or Civil War history, they actually used cryptography in Civil War. The Union and Confederate troops both did. They actually relied on the telegraph lines at the time, and each side was listening in and tapping into those telegraph lines to spy on the other side. So they were using cryptographic systems during the Civil War, right? And you think it's a lot of the telegraph lines were, just the dots, and they would have to rotate things based on the telegraph system. So really interesting ciphers. That I don't believe is going to be on the exam, but it's cool to know. Now, the more well-known type of wartime encryption and cryptanalysis that was performed is about Ultra versus Enigma, right? So it wasn't just Americans who spent a lot of time and resources making superior code, and encryption machines. Now, prior to World War II, the Germans adapted a commercial code machine nicknamed Enigma for government use, right? Now, this machine used 3 to 6 rotors to implement a very complicated substitution cipher, right? So it would shift it, and then you'd have this rotary machine that would eventually get you to the letter required, and you could decrypt things that way and top secret messages in that manner. Now, the only way to decrypt it was to have a similar machine. And they realized the importance of safeguarding it, and they made it so the Allies could not get their hands on one of these machines. And that is why they made videos such as this. So a lot of you guys have probably seen The Imitation Game. I loved this movie. I thought it was really good. But it's about Alan Turing breaking the Enigma code in 1940, right? So they credit this triumph as playing a significant role in the eventual defeat of the Axis powers. So really, really cool video. I recommend it if you want to see some historical insight into cryptanalysis. All right. Now I got to do a quick poll. When I flipped to the image, did you guys hear music, or were you able to hear me talking? If you guys could tell me real quick in the chat, that'd be very helpful. I appreciate you guys. All right. So let's head through the next step. So we got to get into cryptographic basics, right? In order for the study of any science, you got to begin with some of the fundamentals. So that's where we're going to start. And then we'll get into some of the different encryption mechanisms used today. So first, we got to talk about confidentiality again. I touched on it at the beginning, but confidentiality is going to ensure that your data remains private when it's at rest, when it's at transit, and when it's at use, right? And the two main types of crypto systems that enforce confidentiality are symmetric crypto systems, and those use a shared key. So basically any user on the crypto system is going to use this key. Now, the way I remember this, okay, sounds like you guys can hear me just fine, so thank you guys for letting me know. But the way I remember symmetric crypto or encryption mechanisms is SIM is similar, right? So you're going to use the similar key, whether you're encrypting it or decrypting the message or the stream. So symmetric, similar crypto systems, right? They're going to use a shared key. The other one is asymmetric crypto systems, and this uses individual combinations of public and private keys for each user to use. So you'll have a private key that you should never reveal to anybody, but then you'll be able to give your public key out. And we'll dig into that more here in a little bit. So also, quick side note, they've referenced this in the CISSP book a lot, but when they're talking about protecting data in transit, they reference it and they call it on the wire. So if you ever see on the exam, how does this happen on the wire? They're talking about data in transit or moving across the network. So data in transit is on the wire. Just a heads up, that's a quick side note for the exam, but that is good to know. Now, quick image of this real quick. I believe I have one for you. Perfect. Here it is. So this is a quick image of data in motion and how to protect each. Right, so you can see or when each applies. I apologize, not exactly when to protect each, but data in motion is going to be network monitoring, right? So if data is moving, this is data in transit, right? Is data in motion. So network monitoring, internet access control, data collection and exchange, messaging, email, remote access, etc. That's data in transit. Data in use, This is when a privileged user is accessing data, right? Or they're using it. So you can have usage monitoring, data anonymization, use of text data, data redaction, right? This is data in use. And then data at rest is going to be things like endpoint security. Like when it's on physical media control, how is that data protected? And then how do you dispose and destroy that data as well? So that's a quick breakdown of those. But let's kind of move on to integrity. So integrity is another method of what's another check you can use to ensure that the stored data was not altered between the time it was created and the time it was accessed. And this does apply to cryptography, right? So these controls protect against all forms of alteration, including intentional alteration by a third party. Now, I believe I have an image later for that. But then when we jump into authentication, this is where we get into those different keys and those crypto techniques that are used, like symmetric and asymmetric. So authentication is going to verify the claims of an identity of a system user. This is a major function of crypto systems, right? So you have to be able to verify that somebody is who they say they are, and that the sender is the sender, the receiver is the receiver. So quick image. I told you guys I got a lot of pictures for today, but I want to get this to you guys so you guys have a really good mental image of a challenge and response. So, hi, I'm Bob. You guys are going to come back and say, hey, prove it, encrypt this. And then you'll respond with that encrypted, and you'll say, hey, Bob, great to talk to you again, right? So this is a challenge and response authentication protocol. Now they're sharing the same shared secret, right? So this would be symmetric or similar keys. They would each have the same shared secret to encrypt and decrypt, but that's a way they can prove that they are who they say they are, who they claim to be. Now, when we talk about non-repudiation, this is exactly what it is. And you're going to see a lot of these terms on this exam, right? Non-repudiation, okay, Theodore says, yeah, I'm fine. Perfect. Thank you, Theodore, for that. I appreciate you. Let me give a quick couple thumbs up to you. By the way, I'm a few seconds, probably 20 seconds ahead of you guys. So just in case I'm not responding right away to you, it's because I've responded 20 seconds in your future. So just a heads up from that perspective. All right, fading back in. Here we go. Non-repudiation. This is one that always throws me off, right? When I see it on exam, I always have to do a double take on it. Non-repudiation provides assurance to the recipient that the message was originated by the sender and not somebody masquerading as the sender. So non-repudiation, you're able to ensure that the sender is the verified sender, and that's non-repudiation. All right, now let's talk about these cryptographic concepts, and I've got another image for you guys. Let me fade this in. So when we talk about cryptography, we're going to start on the left. There is such a thing as keyless cryptography, and these are hash functions. So if you hash something, it's keyless cryptography, but you can basically take a hash of something and say, okay, this is the hash that ensures that this data is what I say it is, right? This is how it was. This is the state it was in, and this is the hash to prove it, right? This is proving the integrity of data to ensure that it's not altered. Now, when we move over to secret key cryptography, this includes encryption, authentication, and then also password hashing. Same with public key cryptography, except this refers to encryption, a key exchange, because you have to remember when there's a public key, you have to be able to exchange the key, and then authentication as well. And then we see this all the time in the cybersecurity industry, but what's not considered cryptography is encoding. So think base 64, base 32, hex encoding. This is not encryption, and neither is compression. So hopefully this gives you a good image of the different subsets, but please, please, please remember that base 64 encoding, if you see something with encoding, it is not going to be considered encryption. Whew. All right. Now, I want to be sure you guys are okay. So if you guys are still awake, it's just me today. I know typically me and Brandon go back and forth to keep you guys awake, but if you're still with me, will you guys give me a thumbs up or a clap? I need something to keep me awake a little bit. Make sure you guys are still with me. Any questions on what I've covered so far? I want to be sure we don't go past any questions that you guys may have. So please, 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 if you guys have questions about this, if there was something that doesn't make sense, hopefully I'm still going to touch it in the future content today, but I still want to make sure we answer it. And if I can't answer you today, I'll be able to follow up with you offline and get you that answer and walk you through it. So cool. Got some claps. Thank you guys. You guys are literally the reason I'm here. So stay with me and I'll get you some more valuable content. We started with the basics. It's going to get more complicated as we go throughout this session, and it's going to flow into next session as well. All right. So that was our cryptographic concepts. Now let's talk about, all right, here we go. This is going to be our next graphic. And this is the symmetric key. So we talked about this. So real quick, the letters. When you see a P when it comes to cryptography, that's plain text. Okay, so if they show you a graphic like this, P is going to stand for plain text, and the C is going to stand for ciphertext. So once you put the plain text through the encryption algorithm, the other side is going to be the ciphertext. And you're going to use a secret key to then encrypt that plain text. Now, for symmetric key cryptography, remember, the keys are going to be similar. Each person is going to need that same or similar key, right? So the sender is going to encrypt it with a secret key. The receiver is already going to have it, or you will send it to them so that they can then take the ciphertext, use the decryption algorithm, and revert it into plain text. So I love this picture because if you need a way to remember symmetric key or asymmetric key, this is it right here. And if you can remember symmetric, guys, repetition is the key to learning. Symmetric or similar keys, you'll never forget it, and you'll know that the same key is required to be used by both. Phil, buddy, still with us. Hey, stay here, man. I'm excited. I think we should get all our sales guys getting the CISSP, right? If we're talking to CISOs, we should be able to talk the talk, walk the walk. So I absolutely love it. Thank you, Phil, for clapping. I do appreciate you guys. All right. So let's walk through this real quick. Now, cryptographic algorithms, they're going to rely on keys to maintain their security. These keys, that is the security of the algorithm. Now, what is a key? It's just a number. Now, typically in today's day and age, it's a really large binary number, but nonetheless, every algorithm is going to have a specific key space. Now, the key space is a range of values, right? And these are going to be used for a specific algorithm. So each one will have its own required key space. But a key space is going to be defined by bit size. So I have a quick image for you to show you how these bit sizes differ. And I'm going to go ahead and flip over to that right now. So you can see the security bits for the different algorithms. So take a peek. You can see the difference between skipjack, which is a much older algorithm. You can see that it's only 80 bits for the key, while triple des, something that most people don't use anymore because it can be hacked fairly easily, 112 keys. AES 128, you can see AES 192, and then what's most commonly used today is that AES 256. So you have to think, and here's what this means. A 128-bit key can have a value from 0 to 2 to the 128th power. I'm going to repeat that again. If you have a 128-bit key, it can have a value from 0 to 2 to the 128th power. So if we're talking about AES 256 real quick, if I have a bit key of 256 characters, that means it can have a value from 0 to the number 2 to the 256th power. That's a huge number, right? And it's critical to protect the security of these secret keys, right? In fact, all of the security you gain from cryptography rests on your ability to keep these keys used private. So, man, there were some breaches in the past where key stores got compromised. Anything protected by any of those keys were then compromised. And they had to inform all of their clients that the keys were compromised, and they basically had to start from scratch, right? And they lost basically all, I mean, that was their business, right? So I'll bring up some in the next session. I'll have some more solid examples, maybe some pictures with some better numbers to show you the catastrophic events that occur when you don't keep keys private. All right. So I also talk faster than Brandon. So I've ripped through a lot of this content today. So we're going to be ending a little early today. I hope that's okay. We had to skip through the questions. I just did those right before we hopped on. So I'm really upset those didn't populate for us, but I'm going to be quizzing you next show on those questions. So I hope you read up on your cryptography this week, but I have a few more concepts I want to talk to you about. Now, in cryptography, everything is going to rely on the keys and the algorithm. Now, your algorithm is just a set of rules, right? It's usually mathematical, and it's going to dictate how enciphering and deciphering processes are taking place. So first, I need to show you, we can't take this too seriously, right? First and foremost, we got to laugh a little. So I'm going to fade into one of my favorite comics, and hopefully you guys can read along with me. Hopefully you can read the text. I know it's small. And it's funny because we used to do this at our old office if somebody left their idiots unlocked. But also it had our favorite ID 10T alert. So he says, this workstation is still logged into the network. It's time to teach someone a lesson about security. I'll just go in here and warning, idiot alert. Activating defense system. Then Dilbert goes, oh, I have to go. Some idiot violated the perimeter. And then he comes back to his office. Please make it stop. Then how would you ever learn, right? So great stuff. But then also when it comes back to cryptology, it's a branch of mathematics about abstract numbers and functions, right? So when we think about cryptology, it's mathematics, it's about numbers and functions. But when we talk about security, security is an engineering goal, right? And while it involves mathematics, it's mostly about implementations and people. Right? And that's what this CISSP exam is literally all about. So it looks like Salome liked my Dilbert. So at least somebody hung out here with me and read some Dilbert. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Salome. I'll try to bring Dilbert into these live streams as much as possible. So remember, cryptology, mathematics, but it has abstract numbers and functions, whereas security comes back to you guys. And that's why we're all here, is to implement security. And we implement cryptology, right? Now, there's a really cool principle, and this is actually the first time I've read about this principle, but it's called Kirchhoff's principle, also known as Kirchhoff's assumption. And I'm going to show this to you because this principle basically states that a cryptographic system should be secure, even if everything about the system, except the key, is public knowledge. And this principle is summed up as the enemy knows the system. So even if your enemy knows the system, as long as they don't have the key, that is what a cryptographic system should maintain. So let's go ahead and let me get you a quick image of this. So remember, Kirchhoff's principle is the enemy knows your system. Now, this is kind of debated in the cryptography world, actually. There's a lot of people who believe that basically better overall security can be maintained when you keep the algorithm and the key private. But the counter argument to that is that the practice of security through obscurity, right? And believe that public exposure produces more activity and exposes more weaknesses quicker, right? This is the whole reason open source exists, because you can't keep algorithms private, because if there is a weakness and somebody discovers it, it may be a while until you discover it as well. So once again, Kirchhoff's principle is make it public, only the key is kept secret, and this will keep it more secure. So if you get a question next week from me, I'm not saying it's coming, but if it's about why not hide the algorithm? Will the crypto system be more secure if the algorithm's hidden? Bring it back to Kirchhoff's principle, because his principle says it's actually not more secure if you keep it private. All right. Now, we're going to talk about the different types of algorithms in this chapter and then the next chapter as well, but also the private key or secret key crypto systems, right? Now, that is, we've talked about symmetric key. We've also talked about asymmetric key, where you have a private key and then a public key. These different keys, you're going to see them referred to in the CISSP content as crypto variables, right? So what this means is your algorithm is going to remain the same, right? Whatever encrypting or deciphering, right? Yeah, encrypting or decrypting, whatever cipher suite you're using, the keys are going to be variable. Not everybody's going to have the same key, right? And if a key is compromised, you can destroy the key, create a new key, and then reshare that key. Remember, those are called crypto variables. Basically just keys. All right, I got a few more. This, I'm going to be honest with you guys. If you guys haven't read the chapter, it is super vocab heavy. So I've basically I found the ones that you need to know, and I've basically dumped them in here. So I am your CISSP study guide cheat sheet right here in this live stream. All right, so when we're talking about cryptology, the thing you need to know, where did it come from? It came from the word kryptos. In Greek, that means hidden or secret. Now, when we talk about cryptography, what we're talking about is writing something in secret. Now, the other one you're going to see and hear a lot is cryptanalysis, and that is analyzing or the breaking of secrets, right? So cryptanalysis is what the attacker does. Decryption is what the intended receiver does. So remember that. If there's somebody malicious trying to see the plain text without permission, it's cryptanalysis. If the intended receiver is trying to see the plain text, it's decryption, right? Because they should have the key. Now, while it's technically both decryption, there is a difference, and the CISSP points it out multiple times in the chapter, actually. Then the crypto systems are the systems that use the secrets, and cryptology is your science of secrets. Whew. All right. We jumped into a lot of cryptology today. Lots of vocab. We have to remember that how this comes back to our security controls, right? And when it comes to securing data, man, I see it time and time again. S3 buckets being left open to the public, data's not encrypted at rest, right? It's publicly available to everybody. We have to be able to ensure that our data when at rest is encrypted. When it's in transit, it's encrypted. When we're doing administrative tasks, we're using encrypted protocols. When we're moving, we're not using FTP anymore, right? Sometime run a query in your environment. Just over the logs. See if anybody's using FTP, file transfer protocol. There's a brand new protocol. I don't know if it's brand new, but SFTP, Secure File Transfer Protocol, that encrypts the data while in transit. There is really no excuse in today's day and age not to be securing our data in use, at rest, or in transit. Guys, that is all of the content I had for you today. So while we're ending a little early, I hope to give you some of the time back tonight. We're actually ending at a really good spot to jump into next week. And actually, how about this? I can keep going. Let's get a quick thumbs up or say you're good for the night and you want to basically circle back around and touch up on this throughout the week. So let me hear it. If you guys want to keep going for another 10 minutes or so, give me a thumbs up real quick in the chat, or give me if you don't want to keep going, give me a heart. One of those red hearts. Smash that red heart. And I'll see whatever I get more of. If you want more content, hit thumbs up. If you hit the heart, say, hey, love you, Joel. I need more variation in my training, and I'll wait for Brandon to get back next week. Phil, buddy, thanks for hanging out with me, Phil. I'm really glad you stayed on for this whole thing. I love doing content like this, just giving back to the people who make it all worth it, right? I'm excited because Sean, Salome, when you guys get your CISSP, I just get to be part of that journey with you guys. So sounds like you guys want to keep going more. All right, let's keep rocking. All right. Lots of thumbs. I love it, guys. You guys are awesome. Cool. Looks like we had somebody say they're leaving early. Salome, thank you. Let's go ahead and how about this? I'll meet you in the middle. I'll stop at 7:40. So 4 more minutes, deal. Let's talk about zero knowledge proof. So one of the benefits of cryptography is found in the mechanism to prove your knowledge of a fact to a third party without revealing the fact itself, right? So you can say, let's take the hashing, right? So keyless cryptography. You have a hash. You can say, look, hey, I am proving that this is the same source, even though I'm not revealing the data itself. That's zero knowledge proof. Now, a classic example is going to require two individuals, right? So I'm going to have Peggy over here, and I'm going to have Victor right here. Peggy knows the password to a secret door located inside a circular cave, right? So remember, Peggy, she knows, let's call it a hobbit hole, right? If anybody's a Lord of the Rings fan. So Peggy knows the secret, the password to the hobbit hole door. It's located in a circular cave. Victor would like to buy the password from Peggy, but he wants Peggy to prove that she knows the password before he pays her for it, right? So she says, how do I know you can get into the hobbit hole and show me their hairy feet? Well, she doesn't want to tell him the password because then she wouldn't have any bargaining chips. So, right, he's not going to pay for it later. So the zero knowledge proof can then solve this dilemma. So if she could then enter the door and say, hey, that same code, here's the hash for it before, here's the hash for it after. Boom. I'm proving to you I know I know that secret. And this is referred to as the magic door. So Victor can stand at the entrance to the cave. He can watch her depart down the path. When she reaches the door and opens it using the password, she'll pass through the door and return down the same path or down a different path. So this is basically a circle. Let me see. Gotcha. Pause real quick. She's going to take one path into the hobbit hole. She's going to come back in a different path. So he will know that she passed through the door, effectively proving that she has the key to that door without him ever having to see the door, see the key, know the password whatsoever. Now, the next one is split knowledge. So when the information or privilege required to perform an operation is divided among multiple users, no single person is going to have sufficient privileges to compromise the security of environment, right? So you're separating duties. That's exactly what this comes back to, is we're splitting the knowledge in order to access an environment or a resource. Two-person control, right? Multi-factor. All of these things come down to split knowledge. The best example is seen in a concept called key escrow. Now, using key escrow, cryptographic keys, and digital signatures, these can all be stored or backed up in a special database called a key escrow database. Now, in the event a user loses or damages their key, that key can be extracted from the backup. However, if only a single key escrow recovery agent exists, there's opportunity for more fraud or abuse of this privilege, right? So there's a lot here, and I know I just threw a lot at you, but implementing 3 of 8 controls would require 3 people out of the 8 with the assigned work task of the key escrow. So hopefully I explained that well. But I know I promised I'd wrap up here. So let's do, and the next one is pretty long. And then we jump into ciphers. So I'm excited for the ciphers, guys. Once again, I will have quizzes for you guys. And I promise to come back. I'll do a quick recap on split knowledge and zero knowledge proof because I have pictures for them. I was just not prepared to share them today. So, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Phil, thanks for joining me on the live stream. I appreciate you guys. Salome, Christine, Regis, Sean Delane, as always, thank you for being a staple here, guys. Aaron, thank you for joining us. Anton, Tony, it's good seeing all of you guys. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Cutting into Cybersecurity live stream. Everybody, if you guys are on LinkedIn, hit up Brandon Krieger. Tell him, please get well soon. We need you back. It's not the same without you. And we will be coming to you again next week to dig into more content. So guys, keep it up. If you can, remember, hop on the CISSP prep application on your phone. Take those quizzes throughout the week so you're prepared come next Tuesday at 7 p.m. for our next show. Once again, thank you guys. Seriously, I wouldn't be here if you guys didn't show up. So thank you for being here, and I will catch you next Tuesday. Have a great week, everybody.